Okay, I was recommended to call these people, their state representatives. I was recommended by Tommy at Jared Polis Congressman office. So I'm going to give this guy a call, talk to him about being a state citizen. Because it appears that everybody is a U.S. citizen under presumption. So here it goes. 303-866-5523.
House Minority Office. Record your message at the tone. When you are finished, hang up or press pound for more options.
I don't trust him. I'm not going to leave a message. So I'm going to call this guy. See if I get the same crap. I just don't trust the government. I just do not trust them at all. Wow. I don't trust them so much I won't even leave them a message. I feel like all they want is...
Good morning, Senator Lundberg's office.
Yes, ma'am. I was just talking with Jared Pollard. I don't know his name.
Congressman Polis?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And I was talking with Tommy, and I was, telling him about the federal... Actually, I was asking him how to be a state national. And he recommended me to you, since you're a state representative and he's a federal. So, has this question been brought forward to you?
I'm not sure that I fully understand the issue you're talking about. Can you kind of give me some background?
Oh yeah, you bet.
Thanks.
Supreme Court in 1939 said both classes of citizens still exist. It is your right to be a sovereign citizen with unalienable rights or a corporate granted privileges of a United States citizen. While it's a privilege to be a 14th Amendment citizen, and most importantly, it's up to you to determine which one you are, which one you want to be. Well, I've determined what I want to be. I want to be a state national. I don't want to be a United States citizen who, according to U.S. versus Valentine, says the only unqualified and absolute right of a United States citizen is to residence within the territorial boundaries of the United States. So I want my rights back. I mean, I don't like government to be telling me how to live my life. So can you direct me in the right process of being a state national? Because to my understanding, whenever an officer, which is operating under federal jurisdiction because the police department is a person that pays federal income tax and is subject to the federal government, they are not aware and they're not being informed that there is another class of citizen, and therefore they are using their guns and their coercion and their lack of knowledge to force other people. I just saw a video where an officer slammed a kid on the ground and put him in a coma for this. So, this is a big concern about the safety of people who want to no longer be a United States citizen. So I want to know how to be a state national, so that way I don't get harassed by the federal government and all of their jurisdiction under U.S. citizenship. Are you aware that of these court cases?
No, I am not actually. That's not something that I have had to deal with.
Yeah, nobody
yet.
has.
So,
So how do I be a state national? I guess that's all I want to know.
okay. I will need to look into this a little bit and see what I can find out.
Okay.
Are you currently a U.S. citizen or a citizen of from
Well,
another country?
to my understanding, you know, I was born with the birth certificate. You know, we were tricked into it. You know, there's no law that says you have to fill it out. Are you aware of that?
Yeah, that you do not have to have a birth certificate, yeah.
Right. So my parents were tricked into filling it out. And I used it, you know, growing up. I got my Social Security, well, not mine. I mean, you know, we're programmed into saying mine, but it's actually the state's and the legal name's Social Security number. But, you know, I did use it. I went through all of the normal activities of a United States citizen, of giving up my rights and property through trickery, but now I'm more educated, and I feel as though the federal government does not want us to know this one truth. And also in Proud versus Gore, 1922, the court said, in our opinion, it is not the intention of the legislature to restrict the operation of the law to those of the statute to those only who are subjects of the United States. So it's clear to me that they are using, and I have proof that they are using fraud in language to trick people into becoming a United States citizen. And this fraud goes all the way from the interaction of a police officer when he turns on his lights and pulls you over and starts asking you questions, to, you know, going to the DMV and filling out the paperwork, to just everything, you know, we're being tricked into this jurisdiction where we're voluntarily giving up our rights. And I just want to be a state national, and you know, what I've been trying to do for years, first I've been trying to interact with the government. I've been trying to get an understanding that I'm no longer voluntarily in commerce, and there's another court case that says a United States citizen upon leaving the District of Columbia. Did you know, ma'am, that the United States and the Washington, D.C. are one and the same?
Well, Washington, D.C. is in the United States as the capital of these United States.
They are one and the same. And I have a court case that can tell you that. It's well established that Washington, D.C. is the United States. Well, here's a court case. It says a United States citizen upon leaving the District of Columbia, which is the United States, becomes involved in interstate commerce as a resident and does not have the common law right to travel as a citizen of one of the several states. So I want to be a citizen of one of the several states. I mean, I believe I am, but I have to break that presumption that an officer would have when he's interacting with you. I believe that we're entering in voluntarily into commerce when we become a United States citizen, and it's voluntary.
Okay. What court case is that you just referenced?
Well, hold on, let me see if I can find it. Which one? The one that says a United States citizen upon leaving the District of Columbia becomes involved in Okay, hold on one second. Okay, here it is. It's Hendrick versus Maryland. Hold on. For some reason, it's not coming up. Okay, Hendrick versus Maryland, 1914. And you know, I have several of them. I have so many of them, and to my understanding, this is common law. It's judge-made law. And so, you know, one concern I have about the state and their procedures or operations is that when you go through a procedure, a court procedure, it is very difficult. We have never been taught the procedures. We've never been taught common law. We've been pretty much dumbed down as far as the inner workings of how the system works to break that presumption that of who we are. You know, the United States citizenship is voluntary. To my understanding, the entire country is operating within this federal jurisdiction through the birth certificate legal names. And so I want to break that. I would like for you to help me. I don't know if you represent state national citizens, do you? A citizen of the several states rather than a U.S. citizen?
Well, I'm not aware of that designation per se.
Okay.
Senator Lundberg is, of course, a state senator, so state issues would somewhat be dealt with, not him solely, but by the state legislature. So
it's kind of weird that it would be dealt with by the state legislature, who I just quoted a court case that says that they're deliberately trying to trick us. Do you understand the problems that we're having? Did I tell you that one? It was not in our opinion, it is not the intention of the legislature to restrict the operation of the statute to those only who are subjects of the United States. So basically what they've done is they've worded it in such a way to trick people who are not subjects of the United States into their jurisdiction. That's Proud vs. Gore, 1922.
Well, the way the United States Constitution is written, and I'm actually looking at Amendment 14 right now, but the way it's written and the way the set up our form of government was to have the federal government kind of handling things at the top, but loosely, and then they had a few specific areas which they were in charge of, and those are laid out in Article 1 of the Constitution. Then the states had jurisdiction over everything else. It was, as the 10th Amendment says, it's not up to the 9th Amendment, if it's not up to the, if it's not an enumerated power given to the federal government, then it is left up to the people.
Yeah, ma'am, do you realize that there was a 14th Amendment citizen created that brings you into a whole new jurisdiction?
Well, the 14th Amendment was passed in 18...
Well, let me, okay, I understand all that, but let me say a court case here that'll help clarify what I'm trying to get to.
Okay.
The Supreme Court in 1939 said both classes of citizens still exist. It is your right to be a sovereign citizen, that's a C with the capital C in the Constitution, because a 14th Amendment citizen is a lower class C, lowercase c. So an uppercase C is a citizen, you know, of the Constitution with unalienable rights. A lowercase citizen, a lowercase c citizen is a created special class of citizen by Congress at the 14th Amendment. But it goes on to say, both classes of citizens still exist. It is your right to be a sovereign capital C citizen with unalienable rights, or a corporate granted privileges of United States lowercase c citizen. While it is a privilege to be a 14th Amendment citizen, and that's why they say driving is a privilege, because that's all commerce. 14th Amendment citizen is commerce. And most importantly, it is up to you to determine which one you are and which one you want to be. So I want to be a citizen of one of the several states that actually has a right to travel. And I know a lot of people are doing this, but what I want to do is I don't want to be harassed by the federal government, and their jurisdiction to those only who are voluntary United States citizen, because it's voluntary. Commerce is voluntary. When it says that a United States citizen becomes involved in interstate commerce, that is a voluntary act. And it's a voluntary jurisdiction operating under commerce. And Congress does have a right to regulate commerce according to, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3, and then they do have a right to dispose of their property. And I don't know if you know, but United States citizens are property of the federal government, and we don't want to be property. We want to be free.
That's contrary to the Constitution, because no citizen is owned by anybody. And slavery was officially abolished, I think it was by the 13th Amendment. Yes, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude.
Okay, well, here's a court case, ma'am, that'll help you understand. Wheeling Steel Corporation versus Fox in 1936 says, therefore, the United States citizen residing in one of the states of the Union are classified as property and franchises of the federal government as an individual entity. So, I got court cases backing up what I'm saying here.
What date was that?
That was 1936.
Okay, and what was the court case again?
Wheeling Steel Corporation versus Fox. It says, therefore, the United States citizen residing in one of the states of the Union are classified as property and franchises of the federal government as an individual entity.
I do not know the background of that court case, so I can't tell you what that is interpreted as. But my understanding of the United States Constitution, that court case is that statement, if I am understanding it correctly, that citizens are owned by the federal government is inaccurate.
There's also another court case that says it's Anthony. You remember Susan B. Anthony versus U.S. says the term citizen and resident is differentiated from the term citizen of one of the several states in that the former, the United States citizen, is a special class of citizen created by Congress. So, in all of my research, I'm determining and figuring out that being a United States citizen is voluntary. They have no rights. They are owned, and there's plenty of court cases that says that a United States citizen has absolutely no rights. Even U.S. versus Valentine says the only absolute and unqualified right of a United States citizen is the residence within the territorial boundaries of the United States. So they have no rights. So, what we're trying to do is clear up that gray area, and hopefully using government, which has been very resistant. And the courts know the truth. And the only way that this system can have any power is if they are following the truth, and that's why the state local governments are all operating in fraud, and it's very hard to navigate this jurisdiction of admiralty as a United States citizen in the court system. It's very difficult, and that's how they're getting a lot of people, is because we are having a hard time navigating the court system. So rather than going through a system that is very difficult to navigate, we're trying to figure it out by me calling you right now.
Okay, I'll need you to elaborate a little bit on that aspect. So what do you mean by the federal government is getting a lot of people.
They're trapping. They are forcing a jurisdiction on them through fraud. And ma'am, I don't know if you realize the depth of the fraud that is being perpetrated against the people, but there's a United States postal judge. His name is David Wynn Miller. He can actually break sentences down and tell you if someone is committing fraud in their wording. And statutes, codes, lawsuits, they're all fraudulent because they use words like may, which is a adverb, which it's a future tense that does not operate in the now. So they use words like shall and may, and even officers are educated in the word shall, and this whole system is a fraud. I mean, we're trying to break that fraud. Well, we are. I'm not trying, ma'am, we are. And, whether we get the cooperation of government, I mean, it would be nice to get people who work for the government to actually cooperate with the truth. But it's been very hard, and in all my dealings with the government, they do nothing but resist. They're very resistant people. They do not like the truth.
What do you mean by fraud?
Fraud, well, the definition of fraud is using deception to take another's rights and property. And I already told you a court case where even the court said, in our opinion, it was not the intention of the legislature to restrict the operation of the statute to those only who are subjects of the United States. So there's one court case, at least, that proves that they think that the legislature is tricking the people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So then I have one more question. Earlier on in the conversation, you had mentioned that you were either being harassed or afraid of being harassed by the federal government. Can you elaborate a little bit on what you mean by that?
Okay, well, to my understanding, everyone who uses a birth certificate is under federal jurisdiction and property of the United States. So when I refer to the federal government, I am referring to every office, every entity, every person, because cities are persons. I'm referring to governments. Colorado is a person. I think, they're legal fictions. And anybody who has a birth certificate, of course they had to use their birth certificate to get a job with the government. So the entire government is operating under federal jurisdiction, to my understanding. And is voluntary. And this entire system that is operating through the legal name, the birth certificate created legal name, which is a person, it's a face mask, it's not a man, is using fraud. And a lot of people don't realize it. If you watch David Wynn Miller and you go to his site, you're going to see that he can break down a sentence and tell you if it's fraud, and all the laws are written in fraud, even the treaties, contracts, and even what was it? Trusts, treaties, and contracts in the last 85 years are written all in fraud because they are mathematically incorrect, the sentences. So this has been going on for a long time. And that's what I mean by fraud, is that when they word something, they're wording it in such a way as to trick people into their power. And
okay. But how is that? You explained how you feel that they're tricking you.
Yes.
But how is that harassment?
Oh, you don't think that's harassment? I mean, well, I can get into more details, but first of all, you don't think that's harassment? Trying to trick you into doing something?
Harassment is being put in physical
Yeah, like say,
danger.
okay, like for example, say I wanted to travel as a citizen of one of the several states, and an officer pulls you over and says, you're driving. Okay, that's one example, because driving, to my understanding, is a commercial term, and the officer doesn't realize that.
Okay.
So that's one example. So you know, just like that kid that officer, you know, slammed on the ground and put him in a coma, you know, didn't understand that the kid was simply being a state citizen who has rights, and the officer refused to listen, and the officer did get 4 years in prison, by the way. So, you know, there is some justice, but, you know, it's very few and far between. I don't think it has to get that far. I think that the government is understanding, because I've heard that people are getting non-commercial license plates and they're actually, you know, not being harassed by the cops.
Okay.
That's harassment, in my opinion. When you're trying to be a United States citizen and because of their ignorance, I believe that's harassment.
So,
Ignorance of the law is no excuse. Am I correct?
say that again.
Ignorance of the law is no excuse. I think I'm
Right.
correct in that. Right.
So if you're being harassed,
Yeah.
you
Cool.
did not violate any state or federal law, yet were pulled over by police officers?
Well, a federal law is voluntary, ma'am. If you're a United States citizen, then you're bound. But if you're a state citizen, then it's voluntary.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand the harassment angle, because
Yeah.
if a constituent is being harassed, then
Well, first of all, a constituent, you know, what is that? It's somebody who authorizes another man or person to represent him. I am not going to be a constituent of anyone who is not representing me. So I'm not a constituent so long as someone is not representing me. So that is my main concern, is finding out, am I being represented? If you can show me the process by which to be a citizen of one of the several states, as the common law, which is the law of this land, has stated through court cases and judge-made law, then I will begin to trust you. But right now, I don't trust anybody. So I want to know. I want you to direct me. If I'm going to be a constituent of Kevin, then you're going to have to represent me. And that's the way I want to be represented. I want to be a constitutional pre-14th Amendment citizen of one of the several states. Capital S.
the 14th Amendment does not say anything to that effect. So,
Well, I don't care if it says it to that effect. You can see it in the wording if you really study like I have, and if you really research court cases, you'll begin to see that. Why did they create an amendment that created a United States citizen? It's because there wasn't an official United States citizen before that time. And there's another court case. I could bring all this stuff up. I have it on my computer. I don't have it on my phone, so I can't tell you, but I mean, I got court case after court case after court case that proves our standing, and it's the common law. You guys are operating in Admiralty. The entire government is operating in Admiralty, to my understanding. And I don't know if you're aware of John Adams. He was an Admiralty lawyer, and he said, next to the revenues, The late extensions of Admiralty are our grievance. He said, the American courts of Admiralty seem to be forming in degrees that is to overrun our Constitution and take away our best inheritance, the laws of the land. So what you guys, I'm not going to say you right now, but, the government in general is operating in those laws of Admiralty and commerce, because the Constitution does give Congress the right to dispose of their property, to regulate commerce, and to have power in Admiralty jurisdiction and maritime. So we're voluntarily entering into this Admiralty jurisdiction, this maritime, and maritime contracts can be made on land, and to my understanding, federal courts, if not all the courts, are operating as a vessel in dry dock, a foreign vessel in dry dock.
Okay.
I just want to know how to be a state citizen. Will you research that for me so I could get it? Because I want to.
I'll see what we can find. I
Okay.
can't guarantee
Okay.
anything.
And one of my biggest concerns, ma'am, is that I do not want to be hurt. I do not want my rights taken away. I do not want to be imprisoned because some officer doesn't understand the law. And frankly, I'm having a hard time navigating this court system. I'm trying really hard to figure it out, but I think I'm getting an idea of how it works. But the problem is interacting with ignorant officers. That's the biggest scare and the biggest fear. And if we could get together with the lawyers and the local city and the state representatives and try to discuss this issue, but that would be great, because then we could reason together. And, Thomas Jefferson said that is the most important element of a Republican form of government, is the ability to reason. And I have not had any success in trying to reason with the government at all, with any employee of the government. I'll get one or two that are low levels that have reasoning and that don't understand all this, but when it gets up to Kevin Lundberg or Jared Polis or any of those guys, or police officer, a sergeant, they won't return your call. City council will not return your call. You'll ask to have some kind of interaction with the city council and they'll say no. It's just,